on the housing market. Experts weigh in on what should be done to address the issue of rising property prices that have made home ownership an increasingly distant dream for many. While admittedly, there isn't a quick fix solution to Malaysia's housing market woes, economists and developers concur that a more concerted effort by both public and private sectors could contribute towards a more equitable environment for home buyers. Anthony Cho, a developer based in Malacca, said affordable housing should be entirely government supplied and run, as asking developers to help build affordable houses increases costs which then get passed on to buyers. The government should instead form national and state-level affordable housing boards to oversee the supply of such properties, and developers can contribute funds in lieu of them building these homes, he said, which would be similar to the system employed by Singapore. He added that to ensure people who need affordable housing the most have access to units, the government could place limits on lease terms that could be reviewed upon expiry, by which time those who had saved enough money to upgrade or buy can make way for others in greater need of accommodation. Jeffrey Williams, an economist with the Malaysia University of Science and Technology, agreed that centralizing affordable housing programs could provide a more equitable social housing market. House prices for social housing could be fixed at cost price. The housing could be offered using rent-to-own schemes with affordable repayments. With rent-to-own schemes, the minimum 10% down payment does not need to be paid, and those who may not qualify for financing from banks are given access to the market. Where people can get financing through normal mortgage-backed schemes, the free market would prevail. Where incomes are too low to raise a sufficient mortgage, then rent-to-own schemes could be used. Carmelo Folito, the CEO of the Center for Market Education, however, said that a social mobility-centered approach with less government intervention would be more effective, leaving developers to cater for market demand. In this sense, I see the government eventually building shelters only for the very poor, let's say the B10. He said that targeted rental assistance was a better long-term strategy that allowed people, as their income level rose, to bolster their savings to buy a house in due course. The government can book certain units in middle-range projects developed by private businesses, subsidizing the rent for qualified tenants. The amount of the subsidy would decrease with the increase of the income. This is a way to allow people to live near good job opportunities and therefore have access to social mobility chances. Despite the varied views offered, one thing remains crystal clear. They all agree that the affordable housing agenda needs urgent reform, simply because the current policies do not appear to be working.
Hello everyone, welcome to World Perspective. I'm Zhao Yuchen, an international student from Malaysia. Let's look at the world from an outside perspective.
I'm Shen Yuechan. Today we are going to deeply analyze Malaysia's housing issues. There's really so much worth discussing about this topic.
Today we are going to thoroughly explore a seemingly simple but actually very complex question. Why should housing be considered a basic human right? I know you have recently been researching relevant UN documents. Could you share with us?
Indeed, according to Article 25 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the right to housing is clearly listed as an important component of the right to an adequate standard of living. In life, clothing, food, housing, and transportation satisfy people's most basic survival needs. In ancient times, if a person had no home, they will get sick or even face life threats. This is why housing is a basic human right.
Malaysia passed the National Housing Policy in 2019. Malaysia has actually made home ownership for all a policy goal. What's your view on this?
From an international comparative perspective, Malaysia adopts a gradual realization model. They have set specific KPI targets to build 500,000 affordable housing units by 2025. This quantitative target approach is commendable, but implementation does face challenges.
Speaking of implementation challenges, I have noticed a contradictory phenomenon. Malaysia's youth urbanization rate has reached 76%, but according to 2022 data, there are still about 100 20,000 households living in illegal wooden squatter areas. This clearly shows a gap with SDG 11's Sustainable Cities and Communities goal.
There's another challenge. Take the PPR, which is People's Housing Project Program, as an example. Although the monthly rent is only Rm 124, which about 30 USD, which seems very favorable. Actual applicants need to wait an average of 3.7 years to obtain housing. And at the same time, according to 2022 Housing Ministry data, the complement rate about affordable housing quality is 2.3 times that of private housing.
This raises another important question. Should the right to housing include a quality dimension? The UN Committee on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights General Comment number 4 clearly states that the right to adequate housing should include 7 elements, one of which is habitability.
Exactly. So when we discuss housing rights, we can't just look at whether there's housing available, but also need to pay attention to multiple dimensions like housing quality, safety, supporting facilities, and so on. In this regard, Malaysia clearly still has a long way to go.
Speaking of supporting facilities, I'm reminded of a typical case. In 2021, a PPR project in Selangor was delivered on time, but there were no schools, clinics, or supermarkets within 3 kilometers, causing great inconvenience to residents.
This case well illustrates the comprehensive nature of housing rights. Adequate housing isn't just a building, but a complete life support system. This is also why SDG 11 emphasizes sustainable cities rather than just housing construction.
It seems the housing rights issue is far more complex than it appears on the surface. In our further discussion, we will continue to deeply analyze another aspects of Malaysia's housing system. For our international audience, we need to provide a briefer introduction.
We will introduce from 4 aspects: land system, housing types, national policies, and financial policies and loans.
The core of Malaysia's housing system is its land ownership system. Article 74 of the Constitution stipulates that state governments have land management rights, mainly divided into state land and Miller reservoir land.
State land includes freehold, permanent title like prima locations in KL city center, and leasehold, usually 99-year term, like land in Putrajaya New District, requiring application to state government for renewal upon expiry.
Special attention should be paid to Malay reserve land, which accounts for 12% of national land. According to the Malay Reservation Land Act, translation and use are restricted to Malay natives only.
When developing such land, developers must reserve 30% of units to be sold to natives at preferential prices. For example, in the 2023 Kedah State project, non-native buyers need to wait for native quotes to be released before purchasing the remaining 70% of units.
The housing supply side is divided into government, affordable housing, and private market. PPR touches families with monthly income below Rm 3,000 with monthly rent only Rm 124. But the supply demanded ratio in Selangor State reached 15:1 in 2023.
And so for RUMAWIP targets urban middle class, priced below RM 300,000, requiring applicants to be first-time buyers and have worked continuously in KL for 12 months.
In the private market, the threshold for foreigners to purchase property has been raised from RM 1 million to RM 2 million. Financial policies show diversified characteristics. Nomination mortgages allow first-time buyers to get 90% loans, but the actual approval rate for B40 group is only 68%. Islamic financial loans adopt this repurchase model, accounting for about 35% of market share.
EPF, which means Employees Provident Fund, Account 2 allows withdrawal of deposits for down payment, with RM 21.4 billion approved for housing-related withdrawals in 2023. My deposit program provides 10% down payment subsidy, but requires property price not exceeding RM 500,000.
The above is a brief introduction to Malaysia's system. Next, we will discuss factors in choosing housing. After the lens and the door introduction, we will finally analyze the 4 key selection factors for purchasing housing in Malaysia. What do you think are the housing selection factors for you?
So what I care about most is price. Next is location. I want to be in a developed city so I can often go out and eat well. Also having good medical and educational resources. Finally, its environment. I like green and quiet places.
Let's look at the repository. Say, which factors are more important for Malaysians?
First is location factor. The price difference between KL city center and surrounding areas can reach 300%. Transportation costs directly affect living costs.
According to 2024 data, school district housing premium averaged 22%, especially properties near Chinese primary schools.
For infrastructure, apartment prices within 1 kilometer of LRT stations are 35 to 50% higher than those 3 kilometers away.
Second is the price factor. Malaysia's house price to income ratio is 5.1, higher than the international warning line.
The B40 group can only afford 17% of properties priced below RM 250,000 in the market, while the M40 group faces a supply gap in the RM 500,000 to 700,000 range.
It's worth noting that government subsidized the housing has strict price ceilings, and in Kalamania area, they are often located in remote areas.
Third is differences in subsidy policies. First-time buyers can get 10% down payment subsidy through My Deposit, but only for properties below RM 500,000.
EPF account to withdrawal limits are age-linked. Maximum withdrawal for those below 55 is 30% of account balance.
Islamic loan approval takes 15 to 20 working days longer than conventional loans, but interest rates are usually 0.5 to 1% lower.
Finally, is personal needs consideration. According to Statistics Department data, 78% of buyers protest the community tab.
Family size directly affects choice. 3-person families on average need 3-bedroom units, which account for 42% of market supply.
Medical Medical facilities are especially important for elderly buyers. Retirement properties with 5 kilometers of hospitals command 18 to 25% premium.
Besides housing choice, there are some problems ordinary people cannot actively avoid. What problems do you think Malaysia's housing market currently faces?
I think Malaysia's housing market faces 6 core contradictions. First is supply-demand imbalance. Affordable housing shortage reached 180,000 units in 2024, with Kala Valley account for 63% of the shortage.
Terraco system exacerbates this. Developers report that the 30% reserve units take average 2.3 months to sell out, extending project cash flow cycles by 40%.
Second is speculation problem. 23% of 2023 property transportation transactions were second purchase, with 17% of buyers reselling for profit within 12 months.
Construction quality complaints are also prominent. Housing Ministry data shows 4,217 affordable housing quality complaints in 2023, with waterproofing issues accounting for 38%.
For financial barriers, B40 group loan rejection rate reached 22%, mainly due to income profile issues.
Finally, is information asymmetry. 65% of first-time buyers don't understand HOC home purchase incentives, resulting in only 57% of expected policy utilization in 2023.
To solve these four problems, I think multiple approaches are needed.
First, optimize Bumi-Putra quote system. Establish more flexible release mechanisms.
Second, permit IBIs. Industrialize the building system, which can reduce cost by 20 to 30%.
Also, strengthen customer education. Many buyers simply don't know their rights.
Finally, improve community planning. Learn from Singapore's HDB model. That's all for today's discussion. Hope this helps everyone better understand Malaysia's housing situation.
If you want to know more, feel free to leave comments. See you next time.